Okay, so we'll start now. A very good afternoon to all of you. A very welcome. So today's webinar is on total knee replacement and its rehabilitation. The presentation is been done by Dr. Khushbu Umang Shah. She is a HOD of BIT Institute of Physiotherapy, and she is a clinical therapist having a total experience of 2 years and 6 months. So I'll be handing over to Dr. Khushbu Shah. Thank
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dharmesh sir, for the beautiful introduction. So we'll start with the presentation. So the topic of today's webinar is total knee replacement and its rehabilitation. Uh, I have chosen this topic because when I did my bachelor's, after doing my bachelor's, I was working in a hospital where I have seen a knee replacement. I have not seen only knee replacement, but I have treated more than 500 to 700 knee replacement patients. So I thought that I will share my experience and knowledge that I have gained in this particular field with everyone. Okay, so next slide. Why TKR? We have seen that cataract is so common nowadays. So like cataract, we can see that osteoarthritis is one of the reason or is one of the condition that is seen in every home or every houses. Okay. So second common condition for going TKR is rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis generally affects the small joints, but in later cases, okay, it affects the bigger joints like knee, okay, and in rheumatoid arthritis later stage we will see that there is a fixed flexion deformity of the knee joint and the person walks with fixed flexion deformity, and because of that there is exaggerated lumbar lordosis, okay. So in rheumatoid arthritis in later stage you will find that there is a complete degeneration of the articular cartilage of the knee joint, and that becomes a candidate for TKR. And the third reason for going TKR is idiopathic. There is no particular cause why there is an arthritic change in the knee joint or why there is a certain kind of deformities that have been developed in the older age. Okay. Now the age. Generally, we see osteoarthritis and knee pain in the later stage, like in 70 years of age. But we have seen that from last few years that TKR is more common, or the osteoarthritis that leads to TKR is more common in the earlier age also. We can see the candidates for TKR in early 40s and 50s. Okay. The reason is, I think, because of lifestyle changes. In older times, people used to do a lot of physical activity and less of mental activity. People were using more of squatting, like they were squatting more in the Indian toilet, but nowadays we're using more of Western toilets. Physical activity has quite decreased. Another reason for the athletic is the sedentary lifestyle. There is no exercise at all. The third reason is obesity. Excessive weight can also change the alignment of your knee joint and can lead to all degenerative and disruptive changes in your knee joint. And we can see, and hardly we sit on the floor nowadays. We, even if we take meals, we use dining tables, and we used to sit in a chair in the classrooms, or we used to have benches in the classroom. So hardly we used to sit with a cross leg sitting. So lack of complete knee movements can also lead to various arthritic changes and degenerative changes. But there is no particular theory or research paper that have proved the exact cause of arthritis. Okay, so yeah, next slide. Indications for TKR. What are the indications of total knee replacement or total knee arthroplasty? First is the joint pain. Okay, any patient who is having arthritic changes, the most important complaint the person will have is the pain in the joint. The person won't be able to bear weight because of joint. Okay, the weight bearing will be quite decreased because of pain. Second is the destruction of the articular cartilage of the knee joint. Because of destruction of the articular cartilage, the person will complain of pain. Third is because of excessive pain and decreased weight bearing distribution, the person alignment of the knee will be completely changed. So the person may develop genu varum or person may develop genu valgum. That is the deformity of the knee joints. The another indication for TKR is gross instability or limitation of movement. Okay, the person will complain of severe pain, unable to bear weight. Patient will complain of decreased range of motion. You can see that the arthritic patients will not have complete knee flexion. The flexion would be only 60 to 70 degree, or it would be at least 100 and 110. It would not be 135. And sometimes the person develops fixed flexion deformity, so the person won't be able to completely extend the knee. Okay, so that could be limitation of the motion. Okay, that can also lead to that can also becomes a candidate for TKR, because person's activities of daily living will be affected. And instability is more common because of arthritic changes, because of adjacent structures involvement. The person will complain of buckling. So the person will have frequent history of fall while walking on the uneven surface. So the person will not be able to bear weight while climbing up these stairs or climbing down these stairs. Okay, the last indication for TKR is failure of the non-operative treatment. The non-operative treatment consisting of it could be either medical treatment and physiotherapy treatment. Medical treatment generally is all about the pain reduction. So painkillers have been prescribed and certain kind of drugs that will help in healing of the articular cartilage and everything. So if conservative treatment fails, okay, physiotherapy definitely helps in preventing the further spread or preventing the further progression of osteoarthritis, but it is not going to halt the condition. Like it acts as a palliative therapy. Okay, so physiotherapy definitely helps, but it will not prevent, it will halt the condition. Next slide. This is the X-ray of end stage of osteoarthritis, in which you can see that the lower end of the femur and the upper end of the tibia are completely fused. The space between the femur and the tibia is completely decreased. So both the bones are fused. There is no space in between. You can see on the femoral condyle there is small osteophyte formations are seen, and the alignment of the femur and the tibia is completely altered. So the person has developed genu varum. Next slide. So now coming on to the design, surgical approach and fixation for total knee replacement. There are various approaches, designs, methods and procedures used for total knee replacement. So before going into rehabilitation, it's important to have an overview of its materials and designs and fixation that is being used. Now, number of compartment replaced. See, there are patients that you will see that only the middle condyle of the femur would be having osteoarthritis. Some people will have only lateral condyle of the femur will be affected. So if you find that the person is having osteoarthritis or degenerative changes in the one compartment, the person will go for only replacement of the one area, that is unicompartmental TKR. Next slide, sir, please. See, the first picture you can see is the unicompartmental replacement. Okay, it is the only one condyle is being replaced. Okay, one condyle, the medial condyle and the medial part of the tibia is replaced. In second picture, you can see it is bicompartmental. Okay, both the condyles as well as tibial plate is being replaced. You can see in the lateral view in second image that the patella is not being replaced. So this is a bicompartmental TKR. In some case, along with the tibiofemoral osteoarthritis, some people will have patellofemoral osteoarthritis. So what they do is they will go for tricompartmental replacement, in which you will see that the femoral compartment, the tibial compartment, and the patella, all the three will be replaced. Okay, so that if the patellofemoral osteoarthritis is there and if patella is involved, the person or the patient will go for tricompartmental replacement. Next slide. Implant designs. There are three types of design that is being used nowadays: is unconstrained, semi-constrained, and fully constrained. Next slide. The first image, the silvery portion, is fully constrained. Beside that is the unconstrained, and the image that is downward is semi-constrained. Now, what is the difference between the fully constrained, semi-constrained, and unconstrained? Unconstrained designs will offer no stability, so it is used for the candidates who is having only unicompartmental osteoarthritis, because there is no stability is required. Only one compartment is involved. Semi-constrained implants generally offer stability as well as mobility. Okay, the movements of the knee is possible and offers some degree of stability. So generally, semi-constrained implants are used nowadays, and unconstrained, sorry, fully constrained implants are those implants that will offer stability but no mobility. Okay, so depending upon what is the sole purpose of the patient, whether he wants stability, whether he wants mobility, or wants both, okay, the implant design are being chosen. Next slide. TKA designs are classified as mobile weight bearing and fixed weight bearing, and it is also known as, and the other procedure that is being used is cruciate retaining and cruciate substituting. Next slide, sir. You can see in this picture, the first picture, first is the mobile weight bearing image and second is a fixed weight bearing. Mobile weight bearing implants are those implants that is used in younger individuals. Why? Because the femoral plate, the steel part, the femoral plate and the tibial plate, a spacer is kept between the femoral condyle and the tibial condyle. So that will help in some degree of sliding and rotation. So there are less chances of wear and tear. While in contrast to the fixed weight bearing, okay, there is no such sliding and rotation possible. So there are maximum chances of wear and tear. So mobile weight bearing implants and designs are more used because it offers some degree of tibial rotation as well as sliding, and the chances of wear and tear are less. So it is used generally in young individuals. The second image you can see is cruciate retaining and cruciate sacrificing. Generally, when person is going for a TKR surgery, the ligaments that are excised, ACL is a ligament that is definitely excised. ACL is not spared at all. So there is less chances of anterior stability. But sometimes, the PCL is preserved. Okay, so depending upon if the PCL is preserved, the posterior cruciate ligament is preserved, it is known as cruciate retaining. The ligament is retained. Okay, and if it is not retained, like if it is excised during the surgery, the ligament or the implant that is used is cruciate sacrificing. Okay, it is removed. So such kind of implants are available now. Depending upon whether the PCL is spared or PCL is excised, it is known as cruciate retaining and cruciate sacrificing. If the ligament is retained, it offers good posterior stability. If it is excised, there is some degree of instability, but since the implants are available nowadays, there are less chances of posterior instability. Next slide. Now, surgical approach. Nowadays, standard approach, and what is standard approach and what is traditional approach? What is cordyceps splitting and cordyceps sparing? In old, next slide, sir. See, in older, in like 10 years back, we see that traditional approach was being used. In traditional approach, what they do is the scar is quite long, 15 centimeters scar. Okay, the entire skin, like from the above the patella and below the patella, the entire suture is 15 centimeter in long. So along with the superficial skin, the deeper skin, along with the there are capsules are incised, ligaments are excised, soft tissues are excised. Okay, and there is a maximum amount of blood loss. And after completing the surgery, the post-operative rehabilitation takes longer time because all the structures along with the bone has been excised. Okay, so the post-operative rehabilitation takes longer time. The pain is quite more. The hospitalization stays also quite more. So it takes a longer time, okay, to get recover. While in this image you can see that the scar is so long. Okay, it is like 15 centimeter. But nowadays standard approaches are being used. in standard approaches, what they do is the scar length is just 7 centimeter, or it is either 8 centimeters. So what they do is the scar is less, the skin disruption is quite less, soft tissues are less excised, okay, the adjacent structures are less excised. So what happens, the post-operative pain is less, hospitalization stay is less, recovery is quite faster, and the patient can walk from the day zero. Okay, so nowadays standard approach are being used, okay, and in that the scar is quite less. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so what is quadriceps sparing approach and quadriceps splitting approach? Quadriceps sparing approach is an approach in which the quadriceps muscle is not incised. You can see that the line that is being drawn, okay, is diverted. Okay, there is no incision on the quadriceps muscle. So the first image you can see is the quadriceps sparing approach, and second image is quadriceps cutting approach or splitting approach. There is an incision on the quadriceps muscles. So what is the difference between quadriceps sparing and splitting approach? In quadriceps sparing approach, there is the muscle is not incised, so the strength is not compromised. So when you see TKR patients and when you go for the rehabilitation, you will see that the person will be able to stand and walk on the day zero itself, that is on the day of surgery itself, because the strength is not compromised. The quadriceps strength is good because there is no incision on the muscle. But compared to the quadriceps cutting approach, there is an incision. Okay, so the muscle has been incised, so strength is compromised. So immediately the person won't be able to walk, or there will be, the person would be able to walk with the help of long knee brace. Okay, so if muscle is preserved, the rehabilitation is quite faster, and the patient becomes ambulatory within 4 weeks itself. Next slide. Okay, so nowadays there are 3 types of fixations. Okay, cemented fixation, uncemented fixation, and hybrid fixation. So what is cemented fixation? What they do is cement. Okay, bone cements are available, so they use the bone cement and they use to fix the the femoral condyle and the tibial condyles. Okay, the tibial plates. And in uncemented fixation, what they do is they don't use the cement, they allow the bone itself to grow, okay, and fix it. But there are advantage and disadvantage of cemented and uncemented. I will tell you. In cemented fixation, the rehabilitation is quite faster because it is fixed with the bone cement, so there are less chances that the person will there is implant loosening or the person will fall because it is implant is not properly adhered to the bone. Okay, so rehabilitation is quite faster. What is the disadvantage? For example, after undergoing TKR, if the person falls after 1 year and if there is a periprosthetic fracture at the implant site, what the surgeon will do, the surgeon will try to extract the entire bone, extract the entire cement from the bone, okay, and then we will do the surgery. So the additional work of extracting the bone cement is one of the is a Herculean task, I can say. While in contrast to the uncemented, okay, generally it takes 3 weeks, okay, for weight bearing. So the rehabilitation is quite after 3 weeks it takes longer time. But what is the advantage? If the person falls after 1 year, there is no point of extracting the bone cement because the normal bone growth has been allowed to grow and fix the implant. Okay, so the disadvantage is that weight bearing is later, and advantage is that there is no extraction of bone cement if there is any kind of periprosthetic fractures. And the third fixation is hybrid fixation. What the surgeon do in hybrid fixation is one component is cemented and the another component is uncemented. For example, femoral component will be fixed with the cement, while the tibial component will be non-cemented. Bone growth will be allowed, okay, to fix it. Next slide. See, this is we have seen the X-rays. Okay, we have seen the anterior posterior view, lateral view, skyline view of the knee. But this is scanogram. This is quite different. This is not an X-ray, but it is a different investigation that has been done to rule out the alignment of the knee, hip, and the ankle. So very few institutes in Baroda have scanogram facility, but the place where I was working, they had scanogram facility. So what they do is they check the alignment of the hip, knee, and the ankle. In first image, you can see that a line is drawn from the center of the head of the femur to the center of the knee and center of the ankle. It is a straight line. It means the X-ray is completely, the scanogram is completely normal. There is no deviation either to the medial side or the lateral side. Okay, complete normal scanogram. In second image, you can see that when the line is drawn from the head of the femur to the center of the knee and the center of the
ankle, okay, the line is deviated to the medial side. So it is a classical example of genu varum, you can see. And in third image, when the line is drawn from the head of the femur to the head of the center of the knee and center of the ankle, it is deviated laterally. So it is an example of genu valgum. So scanogram will give you the exact idea about how much angle amount of deviation the person is having and how much amount of correction the person needs. Okay, sometimes after doing TKR, okay, this is done before TKR, before going TKR, to find out how much amount of deviation is there, and it is done after TKR also to find out whether the correction is done properly or not post operatively. Okay, so next. See, this is the image of, a traditional approach, okay, in which you can see the scar length is quite bigger, okay. The approach that is used in surgery is anterior approach, okay. Anterior medial scar is there from the on the front part of the knee. What they do is they take an incision on the knee, the superficial skin is cut, deeper tissues are cut. There is a bone driller available, so they drill the bone and they do resurfacing with the help of bone drillers. They resurface the femoral condyles and they resurface the tibial condyles, okay. And ACL ligament is also excised in this particular operation, okay. And what they do after after inserting the implant, they see what what is the patella tracking, whether the patella tracking is possible or not, what is the on table range of motion. For example, there are certain mistakes that have been made in the past by few surgeons, that what they do is they do suturing and they see whether the knee range of motion is there properly or not, but after suturing it is very difficult to open the sutures and again check the range of motion. So before checking sutures, they make sure that the on table range of motion is proper. So if the on table range of motion of knee flexion is 120, it means that post operatively after 1 month, or after 2 months, the patient will be able to regain 120 degree of knee flexion. So on table range of motion will decide how much post operative the patient will be able to flex or extend his knee. Okay, so after checking the range of motion and patellar tracking, the wound is sterilized properly, it is closed, and it is drapped with the help of excessive drain is kept on the lateral side of the knee, okay, to drain excessive blood from that particular knee, okay. And the suture is closed, okay. And sometimes long knee brace is given to the patient depending upon how much amount of ligament has been compromised in the surgery. Next slide. So what are the complications of after TKR? See, there could be intraoperative complications and post-operative complications. Intraoperative complications could be condylar fracture. Okay, if the bone drilling is done very vigorous or if it is done not properly, there are chances that there can be fracture of the condyle, so that there could be damage to the peripheral nerve. Early complications after TKR is deep vein thrombosis. If the person is not mobilized, for 2 to 3 days, and if the leg is kept in a certain position for a longer period of time, the person may develop deep vein thrombosis. If deep vein thrombosis is not taken care of, the person may develop pulmonary embolism, which is a life-threatening condition. Okay, so it is important to prevent the post-operative complication by keeping the person mobile, okay, and not immobilized. The other complication is infection. See, there are maximum chances if the instruments are not used properly or they are not sterilized properly, okay, there are chances that the person may develop infection in the hospital itself. So that is termed as nosocomial infections. So it is important to see that the instruments and everything that is being used in surgery is sterilized properly with proper sterilizations. Okay, autoclaving is done properly. Okay, so the another complication could be infection if the instruments are not sterilized properly. The third is instability. If a proper amount of fixation is not done to the femoral condyle or the tibial condyle, if tracking is not possible, if excessive ligament has been excised, the person will develop instability of the joint. The person may fall and trip, okay, after going TKR if the fixation is not done properly. The fifth complication is the periprosthetic infection. See, periprosthetic infection is very worst because TKR is very easy surgery. It hardly takes 30 minutes, okay, to do TKR. But if the person develops infection at the prosthetic side, that is periprosthetic infections, it requires a revision arthroplasty, revision TKR, and that is very challenging surgery because the person has to remove the implant and has to again go for the surgery. So revision revision TKR okay, is quite challenging task. Okay, so periprosthetic infection, it develops, the entire implant has to be excised, removed, okay, and again the surgery has to be done. Limited knee flexion, if on table range of motion is not checked, or if on table range of motion is less, the person may have limited knee flexion after operations. Okay. The seventh complication is joint instability leading to subluxation. If there is an instability of the joint, that can lead to subluxation. Okay, that can lead to subluxation of patella alta or patella baja, or any subluxation. Okay, and the last is patellar tracking problems. If the patella is replaced and it is not properly, if it is not properly replaced, if there is a certain kind of retinaculum is not properly is excised or is not properly fixed, there are chances that the person may have patellar tracking problems. Next slide. So this was all about the basic introduction and information about how TKR is, what kind of implants and designs and operative procedures has been done, and what are the complications. Now we will move on to the rehabilitation part. Rehabilitation, it is post-operative rehabilitation I will talk on, but before that, it is very important to know the pre-operative condition of the patient, right? For example, I have seen so many patients pre-operatively. See, post-operative rehab will only be decided if you know the pre-operative condition of the patient. If the pre-operative condition, like it is important to see that what was the pre-operative strength, quadriceps strength of the patient that is going for TKR. What is the range of motion, whether the flexion is 90-degree or 100-degree or 135-degree, what is the extension, whether the person is having extensor lag, whether the person is having extensor lag. Okay, so the range of motion is important to check. The strength, preoperative strength is important. Okay, and third is whether the person is having any kind of fixed flexion deformity, or the person is having any kind of fixed flexion deformity, or there is extension lag or extension lag. Okay. So preoperative condition will decide how the post-operative rehabilitation will unfold. Okay. If the strength is poor, if the range of motion is very less, if the person is completely bedridden, if the person is not able to walk even 5 steps pre-operatively, then the post-operative rehabilitation takes longer time. So always when you see or treat or design a protocol for the post-operative patient, always try to see the pre-operative condition of the patient, because pre-operative condition of the patient will decide how the post-operative rehab will be, or how long the person will take to get recovered. Okay, so pre-operative condition, you will see what is the range of motion of the knee joint, what is the strength of the lower limb muscles, whether the person is independent, partially dependent, or completely wheelchair bound, or completely walking with the walker, etc. Okay, whether the person is having any kind of deformity, or whether the person is having extensor lag or extensor lag. Okay, so this was about the preoperative assessment. Now next slide, sir. Okay, so I have divided the rehabilitation protocol into 3 phases. Okay, maximum protective phase, then moderate protective phase, and the minimum protective phase. So when we talk about the maximum protective phase, we always see, okay, the range is 0 to 4 weeks. So the most important thing here we will see is prevent secondary complications. Okay, so what are the secondary complications that can develop after TKR? There could be DVT if the limb is not mobilized properly. Second complication could be if the patient is given general anesthesia for TKR, the person may have poor, respiratory hygiene. So there could be pulmonary embolism if DVT is not taken care of. If the patient is immobilized in a bed for a prolonged period of time, the person can develop bed sore or pressure sore. Okay, and if the person is not being made to stand or sit, there can be postural hypotension also. So the most important thing that you will see in the maximum protective phase is to prevent the secondary complications. So okay, so for DVT, okay, what you will do to prevent DVT, you will advise the person to go for good ankle toe movement. So next slide. Next slide. Next. You will go for good ankle toe movements. Okay, the person is advised to go for good ankle toe movements every hourly. Okay, it is done every hour. Okay, then the person is advised to go for deep breathing exercises, okay, to maintain the good bronchial hygiene of the patient. If the person is immobilized in a bed for a prolonged period of time, the person is taught, okay, to do frequent transferring every 2 hours, okay, so the person doesn't develop bed sore or pressure sore. And if the person has already been developed pressure sore or bed sore, frequent turning is advised of keeping the area particularly dry, okay, using of neosporin powders, okay, and you can use air bed and pressure bed for the pressure sore management. The third complication that person develops is the postural hypotension. Okay, so if the person is not asked or is not made to stand or walk after 2 or 3 days, the person will feel giddiness and will feel like falling. Okay, after he is made to sit or stand after 2 to 3 days. So it is important to make sure that the person sits, okay, every 4 hourly or 5 hourly to prevent the complication of postural hypotension. The person will have excessive amount of swelling because of the incision and the scar and lot of amount of bloody effusion and everything. So it is important to give ice packs to the patient, so to relieve swelling, okay. And you can see in the third picture, long knee brace is given. Okay, generally long knee brace is given if the person has undergone quadriceps splitting approach and the cruciate exercising. So if ligaments are excised, if the muscle is there is an incision on the muscle, the strength will be compromised, the stability will be compromised. So it is important to give long knee brace. So when the person walks, the person will not buckle, the person will not trip or fall, and there is less issues of buckling. Okay, next slide. Previous slide. CPM. You can see CPM nowadays. Generally, CPM we can see in the physiotherapy department, but nowadays we can see in the orthopedic setup also they are using CPM, and they are giving CPM from the day zero itself. Okay, to increase the range of motions. Okay, so generally, see, when I was working in a hospital, I have come across and I have seen and I have treated patients where I used to make the patient stand on the day zero itself. Like for example, if he is operated in the morning, we generally, I used to make the patient stand and sit in the evening itself. Okay, depending upon whether the anesthesia is been there or the patient is out of the anesthesia. The person can at least stand on the day zero. After on the day one, the patient can even walk 5 to 10 steps with the help of walker. But it depends. Okay, it varies from patient to patient because no two patients are same. So there should not be a standardized protocol for everyone. Okay, it should be realistic in nature. Next slide. Next. Okay, so in maximum protective phase, what we do is we always focus on the muscle setting exercise, not muscle strengthening exercise. Okay, because it is the phase where we have to take extreme precautions. So all the muscle setting exercise of the quadriceps, of the glutei, okay, is advised to the patient. Okay, and it's been taught to the patient, so the person or the patient can do all these exercise every hourly or every 2 hourly. Okay, so the strength of the muscles will be maintained. Okay, it won't be increased, it will be maintained. Now the patient can be asked to go for active range. If the person is able to do active knee flexion, the person should be made to do active range of active knee flexion, okay, up to 20 degree, okay, after 3 to 4 days, okay, and the person can increase, okay, depending upon the pain level. Okay, so active range of motion exercise can be focused. If the patient is not able to do active range of motion, then the physiotherapist can, okay, do it passively. As weight bearing is after 3 weeks. Okay, if the person is able to walk with the help of walker, okay, if the person is having less pain, there is less swelling, and if the patient is able to weight bear on his or her knee properly, all the weight bearing exercise can be started. Like next slide. Next slide. You can see that the person is doing hill slides. Okay, so the person can be advised to go for all the hill sliding exercise actively. Okay, the person is doing static muscle setting exercise of the quadriceps by keeping a pillow or by keeping a ball under the knee. So the person can be advised this. In third picture, a blue ball is kept beneath the knee. The person is doing terminal knee extension, okay, for the strengthening of the quadriceps muscles. And in the another picture, if the person is young and there is the condition is good and the person is having less pain and good knee range of motion, the person can also go for ball sliding exercises. Okay, next picture. Now generally what what we do is we always focus on the the operated leg, but we don't focus on the unoperated leg. But it's also important to maintain the strength. Okay, I'm not using the word increase the strength. Maintain the strength. Okay, so it is important to maintain the strength of the unaffected limb also. So all the muscle setting exercises of the unaffected leg should also be given, so that the person doesn't develop atrophy and the strength is not deteriorated. Now, next slide. Generally, other exercises that can be given for TKR patient in the maximum protective phase is the person can stand and the person can practice flexion extension of the knee, okay, against against gravity. The person can also go for heel raising, toe raising after 3 to 4 weeks, okay, if pain is decreased. And if you feel that the patellar movements are quite restricted, you can go for patellar mobilization also, but it should be grade 1 in maximum protective phase, okay, not grade 3. The other exercises that you can do is the balance activities in sitting or in weight shifting. For example, if the person is able to stand in a standing position, okay, without the help of walker, the person can be advised weight shifting activities. Okay, in the in standing, the person can also do small amount of marching on the particular place that will help in developing good knee control. Okay, so all the activities in maximum protective phase should be focused on bilateral stance only. Okay, because still the pain is there, still the strength is not that good enough. So you should not focus, should not directly jump onto the unilateral stance. Okay, it should always be bilateral stance uh, and wide base of support. So the person doesn't fall. Okay, the balance is regained. Next slide. Okay, re-establish functional mobility. So it is important to see that the person is able to do all the activities by himself or herself. Okay, next slide. You can see that the person is using walker, okay, to walk. Now see, it depends upon what kind of walker the person needs. Okay, some people are using simple walker, some are using walker that have wheels. So depending upon the requirements, that there are different kind of walkers available nowadays. So make sure that the person walks properly with the walker. So it is the duty and the role of the physiotherapist to teach how to walk with the walker. Okay, because some people are not walking with the walker properly. So whether the person is walking properly or not with the help of a walker is the role of the physiotherapist. Next slide. If after generally when I was working, after 4 days of knee replacement surgery, like post-operative day 4, we used to make patients climb stairs, um, like 4 to 5 steps. Okay, so there is a rule of thumb, like good goes to heaven and bad goes to hell. So when the patient is climbing up these stairs, it is important to see that the person uses the non-affected leg while climbing up the stairs. And when the person is climbing down the stairs, okay, it should always be the affected leg, so the pain will be decreased and the patient will be find it easier to do it. The second picture you can see is the sit to stand. Okay, so you can also ask the person to do sit to stand, so the good knee control will be developed. Okay, and yeah, the person can also do flexion extension of knee in sitting positions. That is how you can increase your knee flexion also in maximum protective phase. Next slide. Okay, the most important thing is the person is concerned after TKR is the toilet, whether I will be able to go to the toilet independently or not. Okay, so toilet training, how transfers can be done from the bed to the chair and chair to the toilet. So it is also the role of the physiotherapist to teach how to sit on the commode properly. So whenever the person sits on the commode, okay, it is important to see that the person keeps the operated leg extended while sitting on the commode. Okay, because if the knee is flexed and if the sutures are not removed, the person will feel excessive pain on the operated leg. So whenever you can see in the image that when the person is sitting, the operated leg is kept in an extended position. Okay, so this is how the toilet training should be given. The another step is you can also practice step up and step down. Okay, after three weeks, if if the strength is good and the person is young or is able to do it. Whenever you're going for step up, step down, it is important that the height of the step is kept very low, because if the height is kept very high, the person finds it difficult. Okay, so you can progress from a lower height and then you can increase to the higher height. So you can make from simple to complex, okay, from lower height to higher height. Next. Next slide. So this was all about the maximum protective phase, 0 to 4 weeks. We generally focus on the preventing the secondary complications after TKI. We focus on the maintaining the strength of the muscles. Okay, we see that the person is able to do all the activities independently. Okay, now what are the criteria to progress to the next stage? That is controlled motion or moderate protective phase. That is from 8 to 12 weeks. Here we are focusing on the strengthening the muscles, okay, not the maintaining the muscles. Maintaining of the muscle strength was in the maximum protective phase. So now we can use the weight cuffs, you can use TheraBands, you can also go for close kinematic exercises to increase your strength of the lower limb muscles. So for example, you can go for SLR, active SLR with the help of knee brace. So you can tie the weight cuffs at the distal end of the ankle and you can ask the person to go for active SLR. So you can increase the weight 500 kg, 1 kg, 2 kg depending upon the strength of the person and depending upon the tolerance of the patient. You can also go for abduction of your leg with the help of weight cuffs, even the extension of the hip joint. You can also go for extension of your knee, that is last degree extension with the help of sandbags. Okay, so all the here we are focusing on the strength and endurance. If you want to increase the strength of the lower limb muscles, focus more on the repetition part. If you want to increase more on the strength purpose, okay, you have to focus on the holding part. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so you can also go to all the close kinematic exercises. Okay, close kinematic exercises are those exercises in which the distal part is kept fixed. So you can go for ball slides. Okay, then you can go for mini squats. I'm not saying full squats because the range of motion will not be full completely. So mini squats is advisable. You can go for partial lunges. Okay, you can go for marching on a particular place. You can also go for heel raise, toe raise. Okay, yeah, you can also do forward walking, backward walking, side walking, okay, but keeping in mind the patient age, strength, range of motion, everything, okay, because no two patients are same. Next slide. You can see that the person is doing lunges, okay, and in second picture you can see the person is practicing extension of the knee with the help of ball. A ball is kept beneath the the knee joint and the person is trying to squeeze that ball with the knee, okay, so she is focusing more on the extension of the knee part. So this is how you can also do extension of knee. Next slide. So this is a stationary bicycles. Stationary bicycles is advisable for TKI patients. Okay. Now depending upon whether you want more of knee flexion or whether you want more of knee extension, the height of the seat is adjusted. For example, if you want more of knee extension, the height is kept higher. Okay. So there will be less degree of knee flexion. If you want more of your knee flexion movements, the height is kept lower. So there will be more of the knee flexing movements. Okay. So depending upon what is your goal or what amount what you want, like you want knee flexion or extension, the height of the seat is adjusted accordingly. Next slide. Okay, so now you can go for intermediate stretching exercise also. Like ballistic stretchings are not advisable here because it is a high intensity and high velocity. We generally don't focus because after TKI. But low intermediate stretch are depending upon which muscles are tight. You can go for low stretch of the calf muscles of the hamstring muscle. Depending upon which muscles are tight, you can go for stretching exercises. And grade 3 mobilization if you feel that the patellar movements are restricted. Next slide. Okay, here you can always go for the more challenging activities. As I said, in the maximum protective phase, the most important role is to focus on the bilateral stance and the wide base of support because it is a maximum protective phase. You have to take extreme protection. But in moderate protective phase, you can always go for challenging activities. You can always focus on the bilateral stance. If the person is able to do all the activities in the bilateral stance, you can focus on the unilateral unilateral stance. Okay, then with wide base of support, first, if the person is able to regain good range of good balance in wide base of support, you can narrow the base of support. Okay, so you are making the activities more complex. You are challenging the person's balance and proprioceptions. Okay, so with wide base of support, good control, then you're narrowing the base of support. Then with bilateral stance, with both the feet on the leg, you are going for unilateral stance, only one leg on the floor. Okay, so this is how you do progress the activities. And to make it more complex, you can also add arm movements. Next slide, sir. You can see all the activities that is being done in the bilateral stance, but this depends upon the patient, how young the patient is, and how easily the person is able to do. Okay, so these are the activities in bilateral stance, both the legs on the floor. Next slide. You can see that the person is progressing from bilateral stance to unilateral stance, and even the surfaces are changing. The first image is on the vestibular ball, then the person is using more of the stable surface, then the person is progressing to the soft stability, the foam is soft, and the last one is the rocker board. So the surfaces are being changed, so this is going to train your balance as well as proprioceptions. Okay, next slide. You can always go for, as I said before, you can go for marching, you can go for heel raise, toe raise. Okay, all activities are close kinematics. You can also go for one leg standing, depending upon the strength. Okay, you can also go for one leg standing with heel raising. Okay, all the activities. You can also go for catching and throwing activities for the upper limb while sitting on the vestibular ball. So all the challenging activities can be given, but yeah, at the same time keeping the age and condition of the patient in mind. Okay, you can. Okay, next slide. See, this was all about the basic exercise that you can give. But if the patient is young and is fit and is having good amount of quadriceps strength in the lower limbs and is able to walk freely after 3 to 4 without the walker, you can always go for the advanced functional training. So the blue color ball is known as Bosu ball. Okay. On the Bosu ball, you can go for various activities, like you can squat on the Bosu ball. You can do one leg standing on the Bosu ball. You can do one leg standing with heel raising on the Bosu ball. And along with the lower limb activities, you can also add upper limb activities to make it more challenging. Okay. The another board is the Wobble board. So that is going to give you good amount of balance, proprioception, and that is also going to give you good amount of pelvic motions. These activities will challenge your balance and proprioception. There are other things available in the market and in the advanced physiotherapy clinics where you can have trampolines, okay, where you can have balance beam, you can have pro fitters. So depending upon the condition and age, you can always use all these things, okay, for advanced functional training. Next slide. Okay, it is important to improve the cardiopulmonary endurance, okay, of the patient. So you can go for upper body ergometers. So with the help of upper body ergometers, it is same like the stationary bicycles, but the movement is more with the arms rather than the legs. Okay, so it is important to increase the endurance of the cardiac muscles. Next slide. So return to function phase is 8 to 12 weeks. Okay, so here in this, the most important thing we will see is the person is able to, at the end of the maximum moderate protective phase, we will see that the person is able to do all the activities of daily living, ADLs. First of all, there is good amount of quadriceps strength. Quadriceps strength should be matched with the preoperative strength. Second thing, there is a good amount of endurance, okay, in the lower limb muscles. It is important to see that the person is able to do complex and simple tasks easily or not. So you are checking the balance, okay, and proprioception. See, here you can also go for separating the balance part. You can go for static balance assessment and dynamic balance assessment. So depending upon that, you will come to know whether the person's static balance is altered or dynamic balance is altered. Okay, advanced functional training, as I told you, will focus more on the advanced functional training with the help of trampolines, Bosu ball, Wobble board exercises, okay, and all that, pro fitters and balance beams. So this was all about the rehabilitation, post-operative rehabilitations. Okay, now there are several patients, okay, who wants to regain sports or who wants to join sports. So there are certain indications and contraindications too. play sports. Okay, the sports that are allowed after TKR are generally swimming, walking. You can also play golf. The sports that are highly contraindicated are not recommended are high contact sports like football, volleyball, cricket, where you have more of the jerky movements. Okay, so such kind of sports are not available. So even if certain person, if a person asks you whether I can regain sports or not, so depending upon this you can answer. Okay, high contact sports are not available. So that's all about the TKR and rehabilitation. Yeah, next slide. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you, madam, for your such a wonderful presentation. I'm sure all your words will be helpful for all those who attended your webinar. Now, I would like to thank and show my gratitude to Founder, President, and Chairman Shri Jagdish Bhai Patel sir and CMD Honorable Shri Dhruv Bhai Patel sir and Joint Managing Trustee Srimati Kamala Ben Patel Madam. I would also like to thank to Campus Director Shri S.K. Patel sir, our Principal Dr. Mehul Jadhav sir, Principal of BIT Institute of Physiotherapy, Dr. Sarfaraz Nawaz sir, Vice Principal of BIT Institute of Physiotherapy, also Dr. Tawni Madam, HOD of Computer Department, Babar Institute of Technology for technical support, Ghada Dada for graphic design, and lastly, to all faculty members, participants, and students. Thank you all once again.
I want to thank our principal, Dr. Mehul Jadhav sir, and Vice Principal, Dr. Sarfraz sir, for giving me this opportunity and platform to express my views and knowledge. Thank you so much, sir. And I want to thank BITS Institute of Physiotherapy, the chairman of our institute, and the managing director for giving me this platform to present my view. So I'm thankful to everyone. Thank you.